Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to cut through the noise and get you informed fast. Today we're plunging into something, well, truly intricate. The long-standing tensions between Iran and Israel. Specifically, when we talk about ceasefire violations in this context, it's actually far more layered than it might sound. Okay, let's unpack this. Let's try and get to the heart of what's really going on.
Indeed. And the complexity here, it doesn't really stem from traditional direct state-on-state warfare, not in the usual sense. Instead, you're looking at this really dense web of indirect actions, various proxy groups, and the broader geopolitical factors across the region. So it's rarely a straightforward breach between, say, two national armies.
Right, and just to set the stage quickly, it's crucial to remember, Iran and Israel, they've had no direct diplomatic relations for decades. There's this profound hostility. At its core, you have Israel with deep concerns about Iran's nuclear program and support for militant groups. And then Iran viewing Israel as an occupying force, especially regarding Palestinian territories.
Exactly. So for decades, they've been locked in this ongoing, often unseen kind of indirect conflict.
So when we use that phrase, ceasefire violation, it becomes genuinely challenging, doesn't it, to pinpoint a formal, direct one between Iran and Israel themselves.
It really does.
The incidents that do happen, they mostly play out through these proxies, right?
Yeah.
Within these much broader regional conflicts.
That's the core insight, yes.
Yeah.
It defines their volatile relationship. And what's fascinating here is how this whole indirect dynamic transforms the conflict itself.
How so?
Well, this proxy strategy, it isn't just a way to fight. It's almost a deliberate form of plausible deniability. It lets both Iran and Israel pursue strategic goals while, largely avoiding direct full-scale warfare.
Ah, so it's like a constant low-level Cold War.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Take Syria, for example. Israel frequently conducts airstrikes.
On Iranian targets.
Yes. Military targets or weapons convoys, they believe, are heading to groups like Hezbollah. Now, these aren't attacks on Iranian soil itself, but they're designed to stop Iran from setting up a permanent military presence close to Israel's borders.
Okay.
And these actions, they're often seen as violating maybe not formal ceasefires, but unstated red lines or these informal understandings for de-escalation.
Even without a direct ceasefire agreement between the two nations.
Exactly.
And this strategic use of proxies, it's not just Syria, is it? We see it very acutely in Gaza and Lebanon, too.
Oh, absolutely. Iran provides significant support. We're talking financial, military training to groups like Hamas and Islamic Jihad in Gaza.
And Hezbollah in Lebanon.
And Hezbollah in Lebanon, yes. So when these groups launch rockets into Israel and Israel responds with airstrikes, those actions definitely violate ceasefire agreements.
But critically,
those agreements are usually brokered between Israel and the militant groups themselves.
often through mediators like Egypt or Qatar.
Precisely. Not directly with Iran. Iran is sort of leveraging these non-state actors for localized, but sometimes devastating pressure.
Right. Makes sense.
And it's not just limited to kinetic actions, bombs and rockets. This indirect conflict spills right into the digital realm. It's become this ongoing covert war of cyber attacks and espionage.
Like Stuxnet. That always comes up.
Stuxnet is the classic example. It wasn't just a simple hack. It was an incredibly sophisticated cyber weapon designed to physically damage Iran's nuclear centrifuges. It really set a new precedent for state-sponsored digital sabotage.
And presumably the attacks go both ways.
Well, Iran has certainly been accused of cyber attacks targeting Israeli infrastructure. Now, these aren't publicly called ceasefire violations, but they are undeniably acts of continuous indirect aggression.
Which challenges our traditional definitions of conflict, really.
It does, and this whole intricate dance of plausible deniability, it also has major consequences for international efforts, like through the UN.
Ah, yes. The UN resolutions. How do they fit in?
Well, the sources point out that peace and mediation efforts via the UN are frequently undermined by all this.
Because they're designed for state-on-state issues.
Largely, yes. Traditional UN resolutions often address direct aggression between states or clear breaches of formal ceasefires. But when actions are filtered through proxies, assigning direct accountability becomes incredibly difficult. Almost impossible sometimes.
So it renders many traditional diplomatic and legal tools less effective.
Far less effective. Any violations often stem from these deeper, unaddressed geopolitical tensions operating in this kind of legal gray zone.
Got it.
So the crucial distinction here, I think, is that both nations have consistently used these surrogate forces, these proxies, to engage in conflict without directly attacking each other's sovereign territory, most of the time.
And that unique dynamic makes it incredibly difficult to apply the standard idea of a ceasefire violation directly between Iran and Israel as states.
Exactly. It's less about a formal breach and more about each side constantly testing the other's limits through these indirect means.
Okay, so wrapping this up. Given that formal direct ceasefire violations are, as we've discussed, pretty rare, and this reliance on proxy conflicts is so baked into their relationship, what does this actually mean for the future? For stability? For any potential resolution in the region? How does this indirect, often covert approach really shape the path forward? Or maybe hinder it? Something to think about as you follow the news.